We're in the midst of a huge transformation where our peers, communities, and workplaces are all really melding into one. Welcome to Reimagining Company Culture. My name is Christina Giordano, she, her, and hers, and I am the Senior Partnerships Manager here at AllVoices. Today, I am very excited to welcome our next guest on the interview series, Sarah Lacy. She's the founder and CEO of ChairmanMe. Sarah, thank you so much for being here. If you want to share a little bit about yourself, including your pronouns, and when you were younger, do you remember how exactly you answered the question, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I love that you start with that because I have kids and they want to be about 400 things. So I wonder what they'll seize on to and remember. So my name is Sarah Lacy. My pronouns are she and her. And what I wanted to let's see a little bit about myself. I was a 20-year investigative journalist in Silicon Valley, very known for exposing bad things and taking down bro culture. I also wrote a lot of positive things about things I liked, but no one remembers me for that. I had a really thrilling and every since the word 20-year career, both working at big news organizations like Business Week and also helping build scrappy news organizations like TechCrunch and Pando. And then I just hit a point where I was done with journalism for a variety of reasons, which I never thought would happen. And so then I really wanted to start our ChairmanMe, which started out as Chairman Mom, because those were really the two titles I was the most proud of in my life. The fact that I was chairman of my own company, because even when women are CEOs, typically they don't get to be the chairman of their company. Right. And as you know, less than 3% of venture dollars go to female founders. So I was very, very proud of that title. And I was also surprisingly proud of the title of mom, something I never thought I would be. I had just written a book called A Uterus is a Feature, Not a Bug, which was about how I felt I'd been lied to my entire life around the power of motherhood. And I felt like as women, the patriarchy had gaslit us into thinking this amazingly almost superhuman thing that we could do was a weakness. And so it's like, I wrote that book. I couldn't stop talking about it. And then I was obsessed with this idea of how do we reverse this idea that motherhood is a weakness? This is absurd. And so I started Chairman Mom to kind of be the opposite of the rest of the internet for working women, a place where there was no trolls, where no one was tearing anyone down, no one was judging anyone. And we could kind of get together to like band together, pool what we knew, who we knew, in order to help every woman live the life that she chose and, tap into her greatness. We ended up rebranding at ChairmanMe because we actually found out that like 40% of our users weren't moms. Like the same issues working moms are facing, the same issues working women, non-binary folks, even some men who are part of our community were also facing. So we rebranded to kind of better reflect who we were. But it was like I went from 20 years of trying to make the world better by exposing what was wrong to now 5 or so years, and hopefully the rest of my career, having the same concerns about the world and the same mission, but instead building a better solution. And in terms of what I wanted to be when I grew up, so my parents were teachers. And once I was sick in kindergarten and I went to shadow my mom in her classroom. Yeah. And she said that I was like in awe. And at the end of it, I was like, I want to be in charge of something one day. So apparently that was my answer as a kindergartner. After that, I wanted to go into politics, but then I became I'm not good at lying, and I'm not good at having a poker face, and I'm not good at being tactical. So being a journalist was a much better way to affect change.
I love that. I think it's really important to break these societal myths that we are taught and also provide a community where people can talk really authentically about these things as well. And when we're talking about making the world a better place, part of doing that is making workplaces a better place too, because I think the stat is that we spend at least a third of our lives working with our coworkers, with our teammates, and working on the purpose or mission of the organization. As kind of the CEO and founder of ChairmanMe, what are qualitative and quantitative ways you think about measuring company culture?
So I think that, there's a ton of quantitative ways. I mean, you can look at wage gaps that you have inside your company. You can look at diversity, who works for you, and also who are contractors. who is in your customer set, because usually those two go hand in hand. I found when we started hiring more people of color, we started getting more customers who were people of color.
Mhm.
So I think that, there's lots of things that are like not rocket science to look at in terms of, obviously retention of people who are underrepresented groups is another one. But, I think the real thing, especially with startups, to pull apart is there's no excuse for not being diverse, and there's no excuse for not being diverse from day one, because you can't bolt it on later. It has to be something that's like very fundamental to like the DNA of your company. I always think about this amazing story I heard from Amy Errett, who's the CEO of Madison Reed, and has been an amazing mentor of mine. Now, like, Amy is the CEO of Madison Reed, a company that's about like non-toxic hair color for women, and these like lies of the patriarchy, this thing that can burn through a shelf is the only way you can color your hair. And she's a lesbian, she's married to a woman, she has a daughter, like her whole life is women. And somehow like Madison Reed was getting to like pretty big scale, like Series D, Series C size. And like, she looked around and her entire engineering team was men. And she was like, what happened? So then she was like, okay, I'm gonna get serious about this. So she did all the things you would do. And this is a big company at this point. They had lots at their disposal. And she got great female candidates. They'd make it to the end. And she couldn't get them to join the company. And she realized it was because all the existing engineering team were all men, and women quite wisely were looking at this and saying, this is a red flag and I'm highly in demand. I'm not going to go somewhere that's a red flag. Right. And so I always tell that story because like, we're not even talking about some like bro founder. We're talking about someone who really believes this stuff. And the fact that she waited too late, it made it so hard and expensive to adjust. I took that to heart. And when we were starting, we actually delayed our beta product rather by like 6 months, because I knew we had to have a female CTO. Like I knew this product had to be the opposite of what women experience the internet day in and day out. A man could not build that product. And the fact that we've done that, everyone who's ever worked in our engineering team has been a woman, because they all want to work for a female CTO. They all want to work on an all-female engineering team. So, I think we have lots of ways of measuring it with the numbers that are sort of obvious ways of measuring it. But I think where tech in particular throws up its hands and is like, this is too hard, is because they wait too late to do it. And, when I was running Pando, which was my investigative journalism company that I did before ChairmanMe, we always had a phrase around ChairmanMe that when a tech company or a tech founder says something's too hard, what they're telling you is they don't care about it. Yeah. Because this is an industry that, first of all, their entire reason to exist is to do things the rest of the world is saying are too hard or too impossible. This is an industry that has, is trying to colonize Mars, has connected billions of people on the planet into one propaganda machine / grandkid photo album. This is an industry that's beaming satellite, internet satellite down from planes over India. Like, are you kidding me? Like, this is literally an industry that is defying gravity, and you can't find more than one Black woman to hire. Like, it's not about the numbers, and it's not about qualitative. And this is the thing. It's like, tech pretends to be data driven. It's not, because we also have data showing your companies would be better. You'd make more money. Everyone would be happier. People would be more whole. Like, there's so much data. We're awash in qualitative. They just don't care. And so to me, the quantitative, if we're even putting it in that category, is pushing back and asking why. Because I'm sorry, you are a $1 trillion company. Find some Black women to hire. It's not hard.
Mm-hmm. It's not hard. I love your answer to this, because it is an excuse when people say it's too early. We can't start thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're a small startup. We need to think about growing. We need to think about revenue. The matter of fact is there's a ton of data that supports it's not only a nice to have, but a need to have for businesses. And I think something that you also need to invest in is your managers and kind of leaders who are kind of empowering your teams, motivating folks as well. And I think that's something that you and ChairmanMe really care about as well. I know you have a course coming up April 18th around really what inclusive leadership looks like in practice. What is your definition of inclusive leadership, and any examples of how you've seen that manifest at organizations you've worked with?
Yeah, I mean, I think inclusive leadership is really simple. It's about the freedom to bring your whole self to work. And it's about your whole self being valued by that company. It's not about like checking a box and being like, "Oh, we have, one person in this category and one person in this category." It is about that. And I think where you've really seen so many scandals from what happened with base camp to like what just happened with Disney, where Bob Iger's replacement, I mean, Bob Iger is very outspoken in terms of LGBTQ rights, and his replacement is less so, and the employees didn't feel safe,
Right.
didn't feel valued working at a company where the CEO is not going to pick a side on that. And I
Mhm.
think, our industry is very divided because there's a lot of people who want to go back to the way it was when no one was being pushed to do that, because our entire country wasn't engulfed in a big raging culture war. But that we're never going back to that place. And so leaders have to pick a side. And frankly, I'm I mean, I wouldn't want to work there, but I'm totally fine with someone like the Coinbase CEO saying, "Hey, this is who we stand for as a company." Clearly, another rising company, Substack, they don't care about transgender rights. They're subsidizing transgender hate. That's a deal breaker for me. So I'm not going to be their customer. I'm not ever going to do business with them. I'm not going to support anyone who has a Substack. Um, but when they're clear with their values, I can make that choice. Employees can make that choice. My problem is, companies that are somewhere in the middle. And, when I was running Pando, I remember at one point we got a $400 million threatened lawsuit from some friends of Chris Christie. And it was absurd. We didn't have anything like $400 million in the bank. We're an investigative journalism company. So it was just like, it's like when you're in that place, you could just be like, no, we're just going to fight this because like, whatever. And I remember, and our story was accurate. And so it's like, we're not going to pull down something that's accurate. And I remember at one point, our libel lawyer saying to me, you realize your policy, your insurance policy only is for $2 million. Like you will go out of business. And I was like, there's so many worse ways we could go out of business as a company. Like there are so many worse ways I could drive us out of business. But like going out of business because you're standing up for what you believe in, and you're standing up for like not being, cowed by someone with a bigger checkbook to pull down something that's true. Like that was as core to the values of Pando as there was. And I think it's as core to the values of ChairmanMe as possible that everyone should be able to show up and be their whole selves. And if someone is threatening that, they don't have a place in our company or our community. And again, if that somehow drives us out of business in some way or means something's delayed or we can't hire, like fine. That is an acceptable way
Yeah.
to go out of business, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And I think that stakeholders, whether it's employees, customers, or clients, are really taking a fine tooth comb to say, okay, who are you investing in? How are you doing your business? And if you say nothing, if you're waffling and in the middle, you are saying something, and people are demanding more and better because other places are doing that too. In terms of your community and really supporting women, how is ChairmanMe really promoting accessibility to that information for women in the workplace?
Yeah, I mean, we just basically want to demystify all of the things that get handed down between men. And between like all of these like cozy networks that we're not part of. And so we just kind of want to give, everybody sort of like the keys, because it's like so much of this stuff is not mysterious. Like there are not very smart men who are millionaires and billionaires. Like I know them. Like this is about networks. It's about a little bit of know-how. It's about understanding a system. And then it's about sort of playing that game. Like that's American business. You don't have to be a genius. The problem is, a lot of those things, those networks, all of that, it's just not freely given to women for a lot of reasons, but lots of underrepresented groups. And so we just want to demystify all of that and do it in a really, really efficient way. And that's where our online course business has really exploded. We started out our business having having a newsletter and having these different like question and answer forums, which were
Yeah.
popular, but like, you had to have a problem right then. And usually there were people who had the answers, but our users were really saying they wanted to like go deeper with the community and go deeper at solving like bigger problems, like whether those problems were like, had to do with like building like true like interracial sisterhood with other women, like big kind of societal problems, or
Yeah.
whether those problems were, how do I negotiate my salary? Because negotiation is gendered and no one is approaching it in a way of this is gendered. How do we actually get around this? Like we're building a course right now called How to Raise Venture Capital, even if you're a woman, because like it's different rules. If there's a 98% gender bias in an industry, the bro playbook is not going to work for you because it would be working already. And so at times it's like, how to get your book published. That's probably the same course for men versus women, but anything about money, anything about negotiation, anything about all of that, like it is a different playbook and it is a different science. And it's like, if you don't know that going into it, then, you're going to hit up against what women have individually been hitting up against for decades. And like, we want to stop that. Like we all know what's out there. There's so many people who figured out solutions around it. We just need to share the solutions. And so, I mean, that's really what our courses are about. Like, they're more expensive than some online courses because we think that people really value what they pay for. And we believe in like paying the people who are putting the courses together, who are almost all women, like, their market value. But they're a fraction of what you would pay to like work with that person individually. There's still, like for instance, Leslie Gold, who's an amazing PR person, and I teach a course called New Media Mastery. It would cost you $50,000. That's what we paid Leslie for our company launch. We take you through a company launch, media crisis, crafting your story, everything you need to do it yourself for like $2,000. So like $2,000 is more expensive than a BS course you're going to find on Udemy for $40, but it's also actually going to deliver a result for a fraction of the price. So it's not just about accessibility, it's about results. Like every single course starts with like, what is your why? We talk about it in office hours. I want everyone to tell me why they signed up, because we don't take for granted every dollar that someone spends with us, or every hour of time, because like for underrepresented people, that both of those are so hard fought. And so we get people real results, and as a result, like the typical online course completion rate is about 5%. Ours are north of 85%, and 25% of our customers buy another course within 6 months, because we're very results oriented. Like it does not make me happy to sell you a course if that course does not change your life.
Absolutely. And for, conversations where you're talking about advocating for yourself and pay equity, we definitely believe in paying women for their work and no free labor or emotional labor here as well, that market value. I saw in the community, there are a lot of conversations around advocating for yourself, total rewards, what full compensation looks like, to how to kind of get that promotion and how to raise daughters in an age of social media that are not image centric or focused on, their body image a lot. Is there a specific topic, subject, or course that you are really passionate about discussing with your community?
Well, so I have two answers. And I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'll try to be short-winded.
Yeah,
This is not my strength. But I will say, I mean, it frustrates me that it is very, very hard. The hardest courses are the ones that to get people to sign up for are the ones around anti-racism. And I think that, I think people in our community are aware of the problem. I think they want to do better. I think that women have so much on them right now, understandably, that they feel like, I'm going to go here and feel bad about myself, or I'm going to go here and they're going to tell me there's not an answer. And if someone is struggling, if they're in a new leadership position and they want to make sure they're really creating an equitable team, like I think the course that's coming up that Kim Scott and Trier Bryant are teaching is incredible in that it doesn't sugarcoat the very real problems, but like in the first week, they give you real actionable things you can do in the next 24 hours to make your company better. So like, I feel like that is always the hardest course for us to sell, but probably the most important in terms of the impact it would have. And
right.
so, I mean, I wish that was an easier sell. I wish this was something that was top of people's priority list. And I think it is. I think they just think they're going to be yelled at and they're going to feel like shit. And like, Like, I understand that because like I feel like shit a lot of times as a white woman too, but it's like you got to walk through that. And then on the other side, when you start making changes, you feel so much better. You will retain people, you will hire people. If you're in a large organization, everyone is going to want to move to your team. Like everything that will flow for it will be so amazing. But like getting people in the door for that course is a slog. So that's the one I wish would always sell better than it does. And it does because Kim and Trier are like well known. Like Kim was a CEO. She helped Steve Jobs craft Apple University. Like you cannot get better people. And like them doing an hour keynote would be 20 grand at your company. Like it's such an amazing value and they're so incredible. So, you know, we do kind of manage to drag people in, but I just want people to understand, like, you will feel so much better after you take action. And in 24 hours, your workplace will be better. So that's one. But in terms of my cause, I'm the mother of a transgender child. And so the only thing I sort of care about on a personal level is trans rights, especially with what's going on in the country. It's what I wake up thinking about. It's what I go to bed thinking about. And I'm really thrilled that we have a ton of non-binary and trans folks in the ChairmanMe community. I'm really thrilled that we have a lot of parents of those kids, most of whom live in red states and are, you know, dealing with their lives being criminalized right now. So, I mean, that is something we spend a lot of time in our community thinking about because, you know, the same as, you know, our views on race or ability or whatever, like we are only as free as everyone is, right? And, you know, right now there's essentially an attempted genocide on transgender kids happening in this country because we know suicide rates will go up if they don't get medical care. So, you know, children like my child dying in other states is kind of the only thing I can think about right now. So in addition to everything that I'm trying to do for women and underrepresented folks, I mean, that is the thing that I spend all of my time worrying about.
That's so important, especially in today's climate and all of the changes that we're seeing in the conversations and really showing up to the conversation. Being an advocate is so important. Are there any other trends that you've seen in the way that women and other underrepresented folks kind of engage with your content, the platform, or the community, especially over the last, year?
Yeah. Well, I think what's really destabilizing, but now that we're sort of have come through it is really exciting, is this idea that like whatever we thought the social contract was, like wasn't there. Like no one had our back over the last couple years at all. Like and it was just like like the women who thought they'd cobbled together enough resources to be able to be parents and have like incredible careers. Like the rug was just ripped out from under us and there was no social safety net. And like, that's not a mistake. That's intentional. Like it is intentional when we are one of 3 countries on the planet who does not give paid leave.
Yeah.
This is intentional. It is intentional that we don't have childcare subsidies. It is intentional that for the trillions of dollars of relief that was paid out during the pandemic, there was actually no legislation towards solving these fundamental issues. Like at some point, like I think that we're all done deluding ourselves that like somehow progress is being made and this is going to change. It isn't going to change, or, it's not going to change unless we sort of take every branch of government. And I don't mean liberals, I mean women.
Right.
So it's, I think this idea of somehow we're just lucky to have a seat at the table. Like, I hope that is gone forever, because I think, even from my point of view, I had to step back and just look at like this game that I've been in. And it's like, is any of this serving me? Like, is this like economic footprint of mine that I've like kind of grown accustomed to? Is building this company serving me? Is working this hard serving me? It's like, and for me, like a lot of those answers were yes. Like I love the company that I'm building. I love the job. But I think that, I do often say to my team, and I hope my investors aren't listening to this because like they would be furious. I often say to my team, like when we are in these moments of like stress and it feels like nothing's going right and it's all falling apart, it's like, and everyone is so upset. It's like, guys, we are funded by rich people who got money from other rich people. And built into their model is 30% of the companies will fail. The world does not end if we go out of business. The world does not end. We will all get new jobs. everything will be okay. We're doing our best. No one's going to blame us. This is the game we're playing. And I do think it's important to sort of step back and take your worth and your sense of self out of this arbitrary BS game where the deck has so been stacked against us. The fact that we're doing anything and achieving anything is already more than most white men would be able to do.
I love that, Sarah. I've never heard a CEO and founder say that, but I appreciate it because it steps back at the big picture. And I think at a time where a lot of folks see their work as their kind of definition of themselves or just like put too much weight on it as well, it's important to have that perspective and also do the internal kind of self-awareness work there too.
Yeah.
Kind of thinking about, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that, I had the benefit of like 20 years of being a journalist in Silicon Valley and seeing people at the very beginning of their journey and seeing them at the end of their journey. And sometimes that journey, the end of that journey was total failure. And sometimes the end of that journey was they were a billionaire. And I first interviewed Mark Zuckerberg when he was 19. Like
Yeah.
I've seen this trajectory so many times, so up close. And it's like, you learn a lot about the road, watching someone else go through it again and again and again. And the biggest thing that I've learned is that you have to enjoy what you're doing while you're doing it, because nothing is assured. Nothing is assured. There's so many great companies led by amazing founders who worked their ass off and had incredible teams, but like the timing was wrong. Something happened in the world. Like shit happens. Like it's just, you cannot control this stuff. And so if you try to get, sorry, dog barking.
Fine.
If you try to get, so if you're always fixated on this end point, as that's what's going to make you happy, and that's what you're doing this for, like you're setting yourself up for heartbreak, and you're also making yourself miserable in the process. I'm always checking in with both with me and our team. Look, I'm not a big fan of that phrase, if you enjoy your work, you never work a day in your life. Work sucks many days. I love my job and work sucks. There's a lot of shit I have to do. Like firing someone, that sucks. Like there's so many things that suck about work. I don't know what job someone said who came up with that phrase, but like there's so many things about my job that I hate. But on balance, am I happy every day with what I'm doing? And do I feel like everything I have to give is being put to the maximum use with what I'm doing now? And as long as every day I macro feel like those two things are aligned, the outcome for ChairmanMe doesn't really matter. And then it's just going to be extra. But it's like the road to, in some cases, mental illness and suicide, hospitalization, heart attacks, very real physical and mental burnout, is this idea that you're working for this outcome in the end. And let me tell you, most billionaires, not happy people.
Yeah. It's important to recognize that as well. It's not about kind of making the $1 billion and then you're automatically happy. That's not how that works, especially if you burn yourself out and you make everyone around you feel stressed and burned out too. Sarah, our time is flying by together, but I definitely want to ask you, is there anything that I kind of didn't ask you directly, or, underscoring 1 to 2 key takeaways that you hope our listeners bring with them after hearing our conversation today?
Well, I think the number one thing, and I will tell you, we've been very lucky to like buck the odds in terms of like hiring and hanging on to extraordinary talent and bringing in really great investors. And like, there's so many ways we have been an exception for a female founded company. But I will tell you, if we go out of business, the reason we will have gone out of business is women's internalized misogyny. So whether or not you ever become a customer of ChairmanMe, go out today and spend money, invest in yourself for something that matters to you, that will make you happier, will make you more whole, will make you smarter, will give you an edge in your career. Women do not invest in themselves the way men do. And up until ChairmanMe, I'd primarily written at news organizations that were primarily written by men. So most of my customers had been men. I am shocked at how hard it is to get women to invest in themselves versus how easy it is to get men to buy something that comparatively isn't even going to do that much for them. I
Mhm.
mean, and I do feel like when I drill down and I talk to users and I talk to customers, they will spend $10,000 organizing summer camps for their kids. They will do so much for other people, but someone who's wanted to be a writer their whole life won't spend $600 on a 6-week course of how to figure out your daily writing practice. Someone who is coming up for a major promotion or raise cycle won't invest $1,000 in our how to negotiate course. The teacher, Catherine Valentine, on average gets women 30% increases in salaries. Like, you literally are going against your economic self-interest. And when I drill down and ask women, a lot of them just say they're not ready for it. They don't feel they deserve it. They're scared. We did a course called How to Be Self-Promotional, and one woman signed up. She did all the homework. She was like, I'm going to be super dedicated to this. In the 3rd week, she totally freaked out and was like, I think I need to drop this course. And I was like, why is it not working? And she was like, no, it's working too well. And I was not prepared for colossal success. I wanted like medium level success. And it's like so much internalized misogyny. So it's like, I just want every woman listening to this, like, just go invest in yourself in some way. Invest in your voice. It's a radical, radical act.
Invest in yourself. I think that is a really important call to action too, and make sure that you are, asking yourself the question of, what do I enjoy working on? What are skills that I want to develop too, and take that leap. Also, more information about the upcoming course around inclusive leadership on April 18th will be in the show notes. Sarah, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your story and your why for starting ChairmanMe with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And as a reminder for folks who are listening, at AllVoices, we really believe in that employee feedback management as a requirement for the organization to succeed overall. Have a great rest of your afternoon, everyone.